Wednesday on Home and Family, actress Lori Loughlin is talking about the Hallmark Channel original movie North Pole Open for Christmas. And the pioneer woman Ree Drummond cooks a delicious chicken with mustard cream sauce. That's Wednesday right here on Home and Family. There they are, aren't they? I know. We're having so much fun here today, and we are now going to have more fun with Dan Kohler in the kitchen. You can slice them, you can dice them, or mash them, no matter how you like them. Potatoes are our favorite this time of year, I'd say all year long. And here to tell us more about the, are these wonderful little roots, I guess, is Dan Kohler.
Tubers.
Tuber roots, tuber roses.
You don't know this about me. Oh. You don't, but every night we had mashed potatoes out of the garden.
From your
growing up. Oh, growing up, yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what kind of potatoes you were growing?
Yes.
Idaho.
Do you?
Idaho, since you're
mashed potatoes. We grew mashed potatoes.
So today we are saving you from a Thanksgiving disaster. We're talking about the difference between a waxy potato and a starchy potato. And if you're at home right now thinking, I don't know what I bought, let me show you how to figure it out. If you make a saltwater solution of 11 parts water by weight to 1 part salt, and you have a waxy potato, it will float. On the other hand, a starchy potato will sink to the bottom.
Now, why does that happen?
So this is where we're talking about the difference between waxy and starchy potatoes. I think we've got a graphic up here too.
What are we eating, by the way?
You're eating a twice-baked potato.
Delicious.
It's delicious.
Is it waxy or
starchy potatoes have a higher starch content, which is 22% starch, versus waxy potatoes, which are lower starch, about 16%. Starchy potatoes cook up dry, fluffy, and crumbly. Waxy potatoes are firmer. They hold their shape. And then starchy potatoes are best for baking, frying, and mashing, and waxy potatoes are best for potato salads and scallops.
What are we eating here?
You are eating russets. Because we mash those. So if you look at the things on the counter here, what we've got a wide variety. We've got fingerlings. So your fingerlings, your red skin, and sometimes your Yukon Golds, those tend to be waxier potatoes. But your Idahos and your russets and some of the sweeter varieties, those are very starchy potatoes. And another way to figure out what you've got, take your potato, cut it right in half. Now you can actually see on this knife already, you see all this accumulation of liquid right here? That is starch.
Oh, that's like when you have to rinse your knife or it gets like stuck.
Gets stuck, yes. So you can tell what kind of potato you have just by the amount of starch that it's exuding. So let's talk about that a little more in detail. When you have a potato, so potatoes as plants are specialized creatures. They hold all of their energy in starch that they create from the sun, and those starch cells are held within pectin. So the pectin walls hold all these starch cells together. And when you cook a potato, these starch cells inhale all of the water, right? They absorb all of it, and they swell to many, many, many times their size. Now,
I must have some of that in my body.
Yeah, we've all got a little bit of it. So funny. The different kinds of starch is really important, though. So something like a starchy potato, like your Idaho or your russet, has really only amylase. Keep that in mind.
What is
amylase?
Amylase is a kind of starch. Now, your waxier potatoes have something called amylopectin along with that amylase. Amylopectin, does that word sound familiar to anybody?
Amylopectin doesn't mean
it's a gum.
Yes, pectin is...
Amylo means apple in Greek.
Interesting. That is useless here, but pectin is exactly what we want to focus on. So when you cook up something like a waxy potato that has amylopectin in its starch, it holds its shape. So consequently, if you find that you're making your mashed potatoes out of a red-skinned potato, it's going to be difficult to mash, and that's very challenging. So
even with the skin on?
Even with the skin on. So what are the top tips for saving your mashed potatoes this year?
Yeah, what do you do?
3 tips. Number 1, I want you to soak your potatoes in cold water. What does this do? Starch is water soluble. So when you keep potatoes in cold water for a couple of hours before you cook them, or even overnight.
With the skin on?
With the skin on, you can leave them on, or you can peel them ahead of time. Some of that starch is already going to leach out, and that's important because, number 2, once you've cooked your potatoes, don't use one of those old school mashers, and definitely do not use your stand mixer. Does anybody here use a stand mixer to make your mashed potatoes? No. Sometimes you do.
Well, it comes out gummy.
What I want you to use is this. Invest in a potato ricer.
Yeah.
Or now we've got some potatoes right here that have been riced. So once you put your potatoes through a ricer,
Oh, it's like that garlic press.
It's like a garlic press for potatoes. Now what happens here is you have very little disturbing of the cell walls, and that's important because tip number 3, do not overstir your potatoes. Once they've been put into a bowl like this, add a little bit of cream,
Hot cream or cold?
I like to use hot cream.
Yeah, I do too. Okay.
But why?
Melted butter.
Warm butter.
Like some people like them smooth, others like them lumpy.
We'll get to that. Now, when you're stirring,
You're rather annoying today, Debbie, with
Debbie.
your questions.
Debbie.
And by the way, I'd like to say that yes, Milo does come in handy here because a potato is an apple of the earth.
Thank you for your pomme de terre.
Thank you. Pomme de terre means
terre.
apple of the ground.
It's true.
Very
It's
much.
true.
En français.
So now, if you're watching me stirring these potatoes together, I'm going to stir them just until that point. And now I'm going to walk away. That's it. That to me is how you get light, fluffy mashed potatoes. Here's what happens if you stir too long. Look at these.
Yeah.
You see how?
Yeah.
You see how gummy and gluey that is?
You could put up wallpaper.
You could put up wallpaper with that. Now, this was made with russet potatoes that I stirred too long. What happens when you stir too long? Those cell walls break and all the starch starts to leak out into the liquid, into the milk, into the butter, and the starch, instead of being lovely and delicate in the potatoes, starts to link up and create a network. And so all of a sudden you have this starch wall that makes gummy, gluey potatoes that you've activated, and you think you're going to stir your way out of it, which is a problem. You cannot stir out of it.
What if you want to serve hot mashed potatoes? Those aren't hot.
Well, I'm going to follow one of your pieces of advice,
okay.
which you taught me earlier today, and I think is brilliant. Make your mashed potatoes earlier in the day and then keep them in a bain-marie, which is?
It's a water bath. You just put it in a pot, put the water, boil it, then put it down to a simmer, and then put your bowl on top of it and make sure that the water doesn't touch the bowl, and keep it very, very low, and you can serve hot potatoes that way.
A water bath.
A water
water
bath.
bath.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wait,
Now,
so is there any way to have smooth potatoes without destroying the integrity of the potato?
absolutely. I mean, this is actually a smooth potato. Because I put it through the ricer.
What did you do with this? This is
so
really
good.
smooth.
Those have
and
been
it
put
doesn't
through a
look
ricer.
like that
The whole
one.
thing.
Well, hold on.
Gone. Oh, a little bit.
Hold on. Hold on. So this has been put through a ricer. It's totally smooth. There are no lumps in it.
But this
It just
Am I
doesn't
right?
look smooth.
It doesn't look smooth.
But
it is smooth.
But it is.
I will attest to that. Very true.
That is a smooth
It's
potato,
an optical
my friend.
illusion. So I want
it
you to
doesn't
keep
look
that in
good.
mind. Because if you use something like a waxy potato and you start mashing, now, like I said earlier, waxy potatoes hold their shape. They're great for, I think you said earlier, you like roasted
I love
cubed
roasted,
potatoes.
yeah.
Right, well, when you try to make mashed potatoes out of them, they're hard to mash, and so they leave huge cubes that are kind of uncooked, which is not pleasant in this case.
Yeah. Why do I think, when I think of potatoes, because we were thinking of shepherd's pie, we're like, oh, I want potatoes in there because I
Yeah.
think it's a winter food. Right?
Yeah.
Why
Well,
do we
you know,
associate that?
tubers and squash, these are the sort of foods and vegetables that we would have eaten as pioneers and as older cultures because they store well. You would have grown these all summer long, and then you can keep them in a root cellar all winter, and they sustain you.
You know what I've noticed, though? The potatoes are not storing like they used to store.
Interesting. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've
I
noticed.
think we're closer to the sun, that's why. Just something Debbie told me to say.
Apples.
Apples of the earth. That's the problem. We have more information
Or
for you
follows.
by stopping by renegadekitchen.com. Thank you so much, Mr. Smarty Guy. I sit and I'm amazed by your knowledge of food and whatnot. And I'm also amazed by what
some
Orly
roll,
can
please.
do with just a glass and some fingernail polish, right?
That's right, that's right. You guys, coming up next, I'm going to show you how to make a really great holiday gift in under 30 seconds flat, I promise. On that.